So we're still learning about the form controls. In this lesson, we'll be talking about the checkbox. Now, when we covered spark lines, we didn't actually put this data in here. These were just ran between formulas. But in this lesson, we actually are going to put the sum-ifs formula to total up the sales by employees. So before we do that, we have to do a couple things to our unclean data first. First, we're going to need to add an extra column here. It'll be order totals. This is simply equals the product price multiplied by the number of orders. Of course, just remember that these two columns are actually in dollars. There we go. Now that we've done that, we're also going to need to add another column for the year. So here, let's call it year. Now we could do the flash fill and just type in 2020 and try to go down, but the thing is, it might accidentally think that we're talking about the delivery date, which is further to the left. So just to avoid that, I'm just going to use the year formula. So it just takes in a date serial number, which is this one to the left. I'm going to close it and enter. I don't want that. I'm going to select the data, press Control 1. Just form it as general. There we go. So 2020, and I go down here. And once this becomes 2019, this also becomes 2019. So it's working just fine. Let's go to our checkbox worksheet. Now let's do a sum-ifs formula. That's right, ifs, plural. You might not have done this, but if you've done sum-if, it works pretty much the same. So the sum range will actually be our order table. Open the bracket, I'll go down to the order totals. So that's what it's going to sum. It's going to sum everything in that column based on certain criterias. That's right, criterias plural because it's sum ifs. I'm going to close the bracket. So that's what's going to be summed. So what's the criteria range? Well, it's going to be the employee. So it'll be Pam in this case. So it'll be order totals. Order table. Open bracket. But you can just type it. I'll just type in salesperson. There we go. Press tab to complete. There we go. And the actual criteria, it'll be to the left. It'll be A2. I'm actually going to lock this column because when I copy it to the cell to the right, I just want it to copy most of the formula, but I don't want it to shift to B2 instead. I want to keep this formula in the A column, so it'll be referencing these, but I do want to leave the rows flexible so it can shift down. So it'll go from A2 to A3 to A4, but when I shift over, it's not going to shift to column B. So I'm going to go over. So that's the criteria. Now the second criteria range is going to be the order table. I'm going to sum them by 2019. So I want to find all the orders that Pam sold in 2019. Let me complete that. For this one, it's the year. The actual criteria is this cell right here, B1. This time I'm going to lock the row, because when I shift over to the left cell, I want to keep it in the same row to reference 2020, but when I copy downward, I don't want it to shift. I want it to stay in that row. I'm going to close that and press enter. There we go. Double click. Looks like it's referencing just fine. I'm going to copy these. I'm going to paste it here. Press escape. And it looks like it's referencing just fine. All right. Now I'm going to start inserting my checkbox. These columns right here are going to be dependent on my new checkboxes. I'll show you what I mean. First, let's go to the Developer tab. I'm going to insert the checkbox. and click right there. Call this one 2019. Let me go over some, put a space there. Perfect. Now, if you want to select this but not actually check it, so if you just click on it, you'll check it. But if you want to click on it and move it around, you can press Control click. And it'll select it like that, and you can move it around. Now, if you want to copy it, it's Control click, and then you can move it, and that will copy it. Let's go ahead and copy this right now. Let's press Control. Actually, let me click off it. Control click. And I'm just going to move it down, and it copies it. Isn't that cool? Change that to 2020. Control click. It selects it. I click off the control button. Then I can move it around. 2020 and 2019. I'm going to click this one as well. Control click. And then I actually already have my Align Objects button saved to my Quick Access toolbar. But if you don't, I would highly recommend putting it here. I believe it's found in the, is it Home? So this is why I put things in the Quick Access toolbar, because even I can forget where they are. Here they are, they're in the page layout, so it's Align. I'm going to align these to the left, so it kind of straightens them out, so that's good. Shorten it up some, perfect, there we go. All right. So I'm going to click on the 2019, go to Format Control, and just like before, but the cell link, I'm going to put it right, let's put it right here, in G2. Press OK. Now in F2, I'm going to put 2019. I go up one cell, I'm going to label that 2020. All right, so watch what happens when I click on 2019. It puts a true, because this checkbox, it's binary. It's either true or false. It's either blank or it's not blank. So when you click it, it checks it, and it labels it as true. And now I'm going to make all these cells dependent on these true and false statements. So I'm going to right-click the 2020. Its cell link will be the one right above it, G1. Press OK. If I check this, labels it as true. If I click off it, it will say false. But for right now, both these are going to be true. Actually, let me make both these false. I'll click off these. Now, watch what happens for 2019. Right in front of it, so we already did this big sum ifs. Now in front of this whole thing, I'm going to put if, open it up, logical test will be this one right here. I don't even need to really put anything other than that. Press comma, because a logical test comes out to either true or false. So if you have something already labeled as true or false, it'll recognize that. So if G2 is true or false, which actually I'll need to press F4 to lock that into place. So if this is true, then this big sum if formula. But if not, value of false, I'm just going to leave it as blank. So I'll press quotation mark, quotation mark. Let's close that and enter. See how it's blank now? I'm going to go ahead and double click. Now this whole column is now blank. Likewise, in front of this 2019, I'll put equals if. I'll put G2. There we go, G2. So if this is true, then 2019, otherwise, leave it blank and enter. Perfect. Same thing with this. Equals if G1 is true in 2020, otherwise blank. And notice how all these became 0 because they're dependent on 2020. I'll just put if G1, comma, I'll go ahead and press F4 to lock it. So if that's true, then this big SUMIFS formula. If it's false, then blank and enter. Go ahead and double click. There we go. So if I click on 2020, 2020 comes back. If I click on 2019, that comes back. Let's go ahead and make this Control B for bold. Do the same here. There we go. Now watch what happens when I make a graph. This is where Excel really shines. When you graph things out, and you use these form controls, press Insert. Let's make this a column chart. Let's make this a stacked column chart. Just like that. Label this as employee sales. There we go. Let me press Control click, and just move these over here. Well, actually, let me go ahead and bring to the front. I can bring these down. There we go. Control click and go up some. Perfect. Now, as you saw, once I click on something, it automatically reformats the table. Pretty cool, huh? And since I already have these labeled, I can actually delete these. I can actually delete the legend down here. Delete it. Now, there's not much of a way to differentiate the orange and the blue. You don't quite know which one is which. So what I could do, I could right click on this, go to Format Control. I can press Colors and Lines. And for this 2020, it's actually the orange one. So for the color, I can make this kind of an orange color. Center. Same thing for the 2019. I can make this kind of a blue color. There we go. And let me click here, shrink it just a bit. Let me click here, shrink this just a bit, bring it up some. There we go. Now, if your boss saw something like this, I bet they'd be pretty impressed. Oops. Control click, down a little bit, over. There we go. Now you have a dynamic form control for your graph. Now that's pretty cool, huh? So stay tuned for the upcoming lessons for more visualizations and form controls. See you then.